Hello and welcome into Collection Time Only, brought to you by Sorare Data. I am Andrew Lairdinho. You can find me as Lairdinho on Sorare. Joined today by NepentheZ, who goes by NepentheZ on Sorare. Today to talk about getting stuck in collections, not to be confused with a few people thought this was collections suck. And I was like, whoa. We could never have that conversation, even though sometimes I think they do. Nep, talk us away from collections suck and into collections stuck.
Sometimes you just overspend massively on something you think is going to be a great idea. It turns out to be a terrible idea, and you need to reverse that process.
So that's the show, guys. Thank you for coming. No, we'll get into it. Sora Juju said, I got rid of my Lazio collection recently. Let's see what I could have done better. Probably not get rid of them was the what else you could do. I didn't think this through enough of when I started a collection, one very specific collection. I mean, hypothetically, not me, of course, but like hypothetically, if someone started a 2021-22 rare Ren collection a few months ago and decided some part through it that they were like, man, maybe this isn't such a good idea. And now might feel that same way. How do you get out? Do you get out? There's two things, right? First of all, if you have another collection in mind and you have the disposable income to just start buying into that, you just start buying into it and wait on the Ren collection. And if a player spikes for any reason, you sell them then. And if they don't, you just wait, right? But if you need the funds, if you need to release the funds, you should do what I refuse to do in any card ever in my gallery, and that's just sell, cut your losses, and rebuild the strategy with who you actually want. Well, yeah, that's absurd. So yeah,
but this is something I think about, right? In terms of not even just so rare, but it will relate to so rare eventually. Is, you know, when people says, or anybody in your life that you've got close to you that's like, man, I've got this really big dilemma, and you know the easy answer, but the easy answer is always the hard thing to do. Because you're the outside person, it's very easy for you to say, "Oh, just do this," but then that person might be like, "Oh, but if I do that, I'm going to like really upset this person or really hurt this person's feelings, or something may come from it." So for them, even though it's an easy choice, it's really difficult. That's how I see like so rare galleries. When I look at somebody else's gallery, I'm like, "Oh man, just sell like all of this stuff, take whatever loss comes of it, and then use what you've got to keep feeding into what's good there." And then somebody says that to me, I'm like, "Yeah, but I paid like." Yeah, 800 euros. Like, come on.
Yeah, I think, yeah, that's the dilemma I am in personally. I don't want to get too much into mine, but it's literally the topic, so I'm going to do that. But Nep, I do want to say that. So I tweeted out that we were talking about this, and somebody commented back about how they had gone through this already, and I was like, oh, that's really interesting. And they're actually building a new collection, and so I just decided to have them on. And cool. So I don't know if you know Ryan, but this is Ryan. And
could you see me before, lad?
And is building a new one. Ryan, thanks for coming.
Could you actually see me before, lad? Like,
doesn't ring a bell.
When I was in.
Yeah. I mean, I saw you there, but not. I couldn't see what you were doing.
When Net was talking, I was doing this. Hi guys, thanks for having me on.
Haber's collections is just rewards now, isn't it? He's not actually buying collections; he's just collecting.
Like a whale collection, yeah.
Yeah.
So I've just got out of the shower, by the way. So I apologize.
Ryan Newsham, it is, yeah.
Yeah, my collections are pretty influenced on rewards. Yeah, 100%.
What? Wait, Haber, what happened to your really nice background?
Alexa, turn on all of my lights. Now it gets all like nice and light and stuff.
No, like it used to look sick, and now it looks like you've thrown your wardrobe up.
Yeah, there's my football.
He literally has thrown that. Yeah.
The very least you could do is organize them by color.
They're organized by league. You can't tell because I like.
Yeah, hence the color.
But they're
in table order.
In order of my liking of the leagues. Yeah.
Also, what league did you put up first? This is important.
Prem.
Apparently.
Prem.
So you think so? You're basically saying every other league is trash. That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, I'd say so. It goes. All right. I'll list it for you.
Sorry, it is about to get cancelled.
That I'm not going to say.
I'll list it for you. So it goes Premier League, Serie A,
Awful
Bundesliga,
choice.
La Liga, Liga, MLS, then everywhere else Challenger, then everywhere else America that isn't MLS, and then international.
And then Scotland's on the floor.
Don't
yeah.
you dare!
Scottish,
Don't
yeah.
you dare!
I
think
went to
that he would
buy a
own a
Scottish
jersey
shirt.
from
Vlad told me not to buy a Celtic shirt. He just said they're not worth it.
Not true. Not true. I said that's the one that's worth it.
He said don't buy them. He said it's a trash team and a trash league. It's not worth buying. So I just didn't.
I agree.
That's only partially true.
Sorry, I definitely interrupted the conversation. Like, what's up, guys?
What's up, Haber pal?
So, Nep, there are three parts to this collection conundrum that I have. Oh, I just came up with that. So, one of them makes me feel really good. One of them I'm kind of neutral on, and the other one just infuriates me. So, the first one is this. I'm first place.
Let's go.
I won. Now, granted,
what did you win?
So because it's 21-22, I get nothing. They don't have any jerseys left over. I don't know. I didn't win anything, but I'm first.
Do you even have access to the badge again now? You do, yeah.
Yes, I do.
Nice.
And I put it in it's like my club. Like I put it right here.
Yeah, nice.
So I'm first place here. And then I go to my collection and I'm like, man, this is cool. I look at all these cards. I got a bunch of jersey mints and one-ofs. And I'm like, yeah, this is great. And then I go here and see how much I paid for them and what they're worth now. And I don't know what the word is, but it's a combination of rage, shame, and disappointment.
Yeah.
And it's not fun to think like, oh man, I could really improve my gallery. And I'm like, oh, what cards do I not use ever? And I see these and I'm like, oh, this one. I'm like, oh, but I need to keep that one because it's a jersey mint. And I hear you and you're like, no, that guy's really good for cat mode. But the problem I have is that I have other cards
for cat mode
that are better than this.
Yeah.
So I'm not using them ever.
So I saw Gator Guy's posts earlier and he had the Reza Spore collection. I'm like, man, why didn't I have like those for those game weeks? And then I thought, I go back to that thinking process again of like, if you just have like 20, 30, like, and we can even like go at limited level, so it's way more affordable, 20 or 30 like collections, so that you have like all eventualities covered overall. And I'm thinking that would be so sick because then weeks like this, I'd be able to like win things. But really, like, you just wouldn't. And what you'd end up with is like way too many players for cat modes. You know, all these like, oh, I just save him for cat modes. You just end up with too much. And you just get diminishing returns for your investments. And every time when I look at your collection there, some of your guys that you bought for like $2 are actually at $5 or $6 now. And that ROI is insane. That's like 300% return on investment. That's crazy. But then you have one guy that you bought for $600 that's now worth $120. It's like all the time I see this and I'm like, I really should just buy loads of stuff worth nothing and wait until it's worth just something. That's a way better way to play this game.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
It is. It is.
Do you know what I find interesting, Nep, is when you talk about positive ROI on those little shrimp cards, you talk about it's like 200, 300%. Then when you're talking about a negative ROI on those big cards, you actually talk about the dollar value and how much you've lost rather than the percentage.
Yeah, but like, listen, I said this before about collections, right? You buy a collection, use it to buy a collection, use both collections to buy more collections and so on and so forth. But if you're somebody that's like, even if you're just like tentative about Sorare and you're like, oh, should I put my money in here? What if this is another Windex style thing? Or what if Sorare goes to zero? If you just buy a guy worth $1 and sell him for $3 and then buy 3 more guys for $1, like that could get out of control real quick. Now, the work ethic that would have to go into buying hundreds of guys for $1 each or less, 50 cents, and track them, it might be difficult, but actually like the Sorare Data My Cards page just does a great job of showing you like the positive equity on cards. And so the reason why, like, yeah, it does. Yeah. And like, you know, you and I think you and Gator Guy were looking at Raya because you was looking at Premier League players and their price points. Or you was looking at some Premier League player that tanked anyway. And I was like, oh, what did I buy a rifle? Because I bought the Arsenal collection, literally the limited collection on that buy now. And I bought them like at a price where I wasn't even the top. Like I wasn't even close to the top. And I'm now looking at David Raya, and I bought him for £124. He sold up as high as £136. He's now £33, and I won, I want to say nothing with him. I won £3 with
his limited is £130
for this Premier League thing because it was the new season version. And this isn't the first time I've made this mistake. You know, when Legends got introduced, the amount of money I wasted on these thinking I was just making a good choice. And then another thing gets introduced and I like overspend. And then another, and I'm just like, I would honestly be better genuinely just not playing the game. That's probably the best choice I can make from this point onwards.
I think I feel like the Raya one doesn't quite fit with the other like Premier League cards going on because the Arsenal collection means something to you. And
the rare one does, but who gives a damn about limiteds? I just wanted to win money.
But surely you should have seen that paying that for Raya alone, and then how much you pay for the rest of the cards, you were never going to profit off that.
You're right, hey, but I should have seen that. I didn't. Again, but I should have.
Why do you think you'd never profit from that?
Well, I mean, if he's bought it for the sole purpose of playing that Premier League mode, right, then, you know, even if he does win, I don't know, $200 one week, that only pays for maybe Raya, and then you've got all the other ones. You got to do that, 20 more times for everyone else? Yeah,
basically.
Yeah.
But the whole point is that it's not the only utility was not the Premier League competition. Obviously, that was the cash heaviest one. But you own those forever, Nep. You've got decades of Martin Odegaard to make up for.
But I'm looking here, right? And I'm like El Neni, I bought for £2.46. He's now selling for £3.46. Let's go. Emil Smith Rowe is up £1.
Let's
sell them.
Everybody
why do you
else,
still own them?
Everybody else is down. Everybody else. And it's like when I look at what Haber has done with the super rares, it's great moves, right? I thought about a year ago that I was doing great moves with rares in that regard. And now you see some of the top rares on the platform, Champion Europe top rares that are also like young and have years of utility left for like $150 or $200. And I'm like, do I want to cut my rares, start getting into super rares, and then in a year's time be like, oh my God, it's done it again. I've bought up here and it's just down here and I haven't won enough back to cover for it. And so when I looked at your Ren collection there, all I see is this game falling on the floor and me thinking, how do we get out of this? How do we get out of this? How do we get into a position where I actually want to go out and buy a collection because it makes sense? It's short, medium, and long term, not just because it looks cool or I get 5% collection bonus. Like, how can Sorare make this game fun to the point where when you buy something, it's going to at least hold some value? And maybe it does. Maybe like more people come on board and the curve changes. But since I've joined this site, everything has just gone down.
Same.
But you're winning, Habe, so that's all right. You're making some big dubs.
I think a big portion of why you're thinking this way, though, is because you haven't contributed virtually any time to Sorare for months. Like, you've been so engrossed in FC24 that you just don't have the time for the platform. I think Sean's been at a similar point where he was engrossed with his job with college football, and he was sort of saying something similar where he just didn't have the motivation, the passion, the energy that he used to for it. And I think that typically happens when you just don't have the time to invest into the platform. And when you do, when you find that time to sort of get engrossed by football and Sorare again, you find yourself being not only more passionate and excited, but also making better decisions because you are more switched on.
Yeah, no, definitely. But like, obviously, I do my job because I need to pay off my debts to Sorare because everything's just gone down. But also, like, the dream, like we talked about many times, hey, but the dream like a year ago or 18 months ago was, imagine if I win that Mbappe.
Yeah.
20 grand. Like, now it's like, if I win that Mbappe, I'm better off just uploading another YouTube video and not having to have to worry about that. Like, that's like where it's changed. Like, not that it was only ever about money, because there has been massive enjoyment from Sorare as well. And obviously the connections that we made and the football that I've watched because of it it's like all encompassing as like, it's been a great journey. But because what you can win now is significantly less and significantly harder to win because everybody's getting better at the game, I genuinely just loses my interest. And they're not doing enough to keep me interested in the platform.
I'll respectfully disagree that everybody's getting better.
Same.
Enough people are getting better to the point where it's harder anyway.
I don't
Not
think
everybody.
that's true. You know what? I think it seems like that. I think it's just prices going down and people being able to afford the top cards, so then everyone can play those top cards.
Yeah,
I think that's why
screw those guys.
the fact that you can get all these rares and things like that. I mean, I think I was looking at Veerman and Buscaglia, right? 2 absolute smashes. PSV haven't lost a game, I think, this entire season. And I mean, you can get a rare Veerman for 600 quid and a rare Buscaglia for less than 300 quid now. A year ago, that'd have cost you what, 2.5, 3 grand combined or something like that. Like, so the fact you can get them now for that way cheaper means that so many people can actually buy those cards and just enter them, and that's why it seems like people are getting better. They're not. They're just buying the top L15s.
You said that the other day.
I don't do that.
You said that the other day on your stream, and it was like that was like a light bulb for me. And just that we've always known that the game is easier when you have better cards, like better player cards. And now with prices going down and the better player cards becoming more affordable, more people have them. But I fundamentally don't think people are getting better at the game. They're just using better pieces. And at some point, if those prices go up, then they're not going to have them anymore. Because the cards that are expensive today are not going to necessarily be the expensive cards, or excuse me, the better player cards. Like, there's always going to be some that just get better. And then if those happen to rush in price, some people won't get there. But I don't know.
I think there's also so I think my mentality on Sorare has changed quite a lot in the last few months. I think that there'll be cards I buy with a sole purpose of trying to just churn ROI. And then there's cards like AC Milan cards now that I buy knowing I'm going to lose on them. And I think like that you have a lot of cards, Nep, that your mentality should almost be, you're going to lose on these cards for now, in terms of what Sorare data shows, in terms of like, you're going to lose on these cards. They're going to be worth less in a year than they are now. But it's what you make on them is what you're trying to churn ROI. You're trying to make money on them from earning rewards. I mean, if you're not, then you're just going to lose money.
What's the purpose of the Milan collection?
Right. So purpose was 1 Mignon, and he's incredible.
Yep.
And I'm going to hold on to him. And then I saw that Katoze had a sexy celebration Theo Hernandez on sale. So I bought that. And then I was like, Milan's a really nice city, and I wouldn't mind going there and watching a game one day. So why don't I just go and buy everyone?
So you can go to Milan without owning Sorare cards.
That's very true, but it kind of makes it a lot more exciting when I've got skin in the game when they're playing.
Like, Nep, didn't you actually do that?
Twice.
How's your Milan collection?
Once with Sorare, once with...
It's like another
3
company or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah, it was a... do you know what? I think they went bust as well, hilariously.
Nep pump and dumping. Imagine my shot, guys.
Listen, I didn't even get paid. I just got the...
I
just got the thing, the benefits,
Makes sense.
I think it was largely because, I mean, Mignon's great, Theo Hernandez is great, and that card is just sensational. And also, I was just like, I don't know, man. Like, I like the team. I like the city. There's some nice play. Like, I think Ruben Loftus-Cheek's a really fun player to watch. I think Dejani Renders is good. And I was just like, and if I want to go to Milan at some point, I've got a whole collection that I can field in Sorare whilst they play a game, which will make it twice as exciting to watch them. So
the thing for me about like a club like Milan as well is, first of all, I can't believe how cheap Hernandez actually was that you bought him. I thought that was an insane price. But when you look at these players, they are only going to go somewhere else and be good.
Yeah.
They're not going to, if Loftus-Cheek gets another move back to the Premier League, he's going to be good there. If Reinders doesn't work out in Serie A and goes back to Challenge Europe, he's going to be good there again. And that's why I like these like big collections, these like big teams.
I think another large reason why I've completed the entire AC, or not, I've not done it yet, but I will complete the entire AC Milan collection, was the sheer shock at how cheap these cards actually were for such a big team, for such good players. Like, for example, I got a 5-man bundle or a 4-man bundle for like 200 quid. And it's 5 players that if they don't start for Milan, like you say, they're going to go somewhere and start. They're all like genuinely really, really good players. And I was just shocked. I was like half the collection of £40 a pop. I was like 40. I was paying that for like Kawasaki Frontale players that you can't even like. I wouldn't know if he got hit by a bus because I don't know how to read Japanese. You know what I mean? Like, so when I realized, I was like, this is a top tier. This team has got football heritage. It's a top tier team in Europe, a sleeping giant, if you will, and they're £40 a pop. I'm getting in.
I did something similar. I bought a bundle from Torino because it had a super rare in it, and I couldn't believe how cheap I got the bundle for. It was like 90 something pounds.
Yeah.
And now one of the guys that wasn't playing, Samuel Ricky, is now starting, and he himself is like £35. And I'm like, it was 4 DMPs and a super rare. And like one of them started playing and it's covered off a massive proportion of it. And it leans straight back into the whole, if you've just got the collections and can manage it well, it's a good way. It's the most efficient way to play this game is probably to trade and not, as you know, we've discussed it loads before, but to trade is the most efficient way to play the game, not anything else. But my biggest downfall, when I look at your AC Milan collection, I'm like, yes, I'm all about that. I really should have like a quality Serie A collection. And then I'm just like, I just can't put more money into this site, and I find it unbelievably difficult to cut my losses on anything. I almost like, I tell you what would be a great job for someone to actually manage someone's gallery. You know, you get paid like a one-time fee. You go and like get rid of all of the crap that you know they don't need. Let them have that bank of ETH, keep all their good stuff, and be like, there you go, go again. Because if somebody could come in and do that for me, I'd be all right. If somebody's like, look, I've sold that card, and I'd be like, well, I suppose now he's gone. Yeah.
I hear what you're saying. I do agree with you as well. I think trading's very underrated on this game. And I think that people seem to think that every single card in the entire game goes like that, which isn't the case. Like, for example, Mike Mignon, right? When I won him, it was 800 quid. I would put my house on as we lead up to the Euros, him going up in price, because people are going to start degenning buying some of the best European players that are going to start for the best European teams. It happens with every single thing that I mean, we have it with the World Cup. It happened even AFCON. You see people buying into AFCON, and I mean, we don't even have like a special AFCON tournament, so they're just going to be playing them in All-Star against my Bayern Munich stack. Like, good luck, buddy. You know.
Here's my concern though. When you look at his price graph over just the last 6 months, he was £1,400.
I know, I won one
for a long time. Then out of nowhere dropped, and now has dropped again. And his last sale was £642.
Yeah, that one's interesting. I don't know. I don't think that will be the new norm of price. I don't know why someone sold him for that cheap.
Like, this is for a premium goalkeeper that has international utility for one of the best nations on the planet as well. Mm-hmm. How can he be so cheap?
Every card's done that in the last 6 months. So every top tier card has done that. It's the same sort of pattern.
Gator Guy won Mignon in June of 2022. Obviously a very different time.
Probably like 10 grand, right?
3,800 euros. Excuse me, pounds. 3,800 pounds.
At that time, though, wasn't that like 4 ETH? That was a lot of ETH. It was actually more ETH than the actual.
It was a lot of ETH.
Yeah. I won Mignon.
Won it, but
I won Mignon in June of last year. I came second in gas, and I think it's on like 1.3k at the time. So,
yeah, I mean, he looks like he got up to 4.5 is the highest he got.
That's wild, isn't it?
But here's the thing, right? So we look at that and we look at prices, and this is why I think this is really, it hurts Sorare massively. I don't like that boom, that Gary V boom that we call it, where we got in net, like that big boom where everything was at the top, right? Should never really have happened, realistically. And the fact that it did happen, I think, really hurt this platform. If you actually look at where Mignon was 3 or 4 years ago compared to now, like prices are pretty much back there then, where they were like years and years ago when, like, I don't know, what's that, Feb 29? Is that February 29?
I'm saying this is the Gary V boom.
whatever boom it was that me and Nep got in, where it was like because Mignon was
That
about
was
4
it,
ETH
yeah.
when we
This
got
is
in.
it.
I
He's
think
one
the
and a
other
half.
boom is the fact that ETH crashed rather than the prices rised.
I got in Jan 22.
Maybe not.
Yeah, it's still. This is it. This is March 2021.
Was that okay? I got in a year after that, so I got in about Jan 22, where prices were just at a huge height. I mean, we were buying cards for ridiculous amounts now. Like rare cards were going for what their super rares are now.
Mhm.
But it's like that's everyone that's still here compares the prices to back then, and it really puts them off. But this is just what prices are now. Like,
I don't mind prices being where they are now, and I don't compare necessarily what like if I was looking at Mike, I wouldn't be like, oh, he was. If I won him, for example, I wouldn't be like, oh no, it was $4,000 like a year ago or whatever. I now look at it and think, how can I invest another like £800 or £600 to buy him when I spent like £1,800 on Jose Caro, who's now like £300. That's what I look at. I'm like, I can't like, and I can't recoup because some of my strategies were just poor, and so now I've got players that didn't pan out the way I thought they would. And it's like if I bought a player for like £1,000 and he dropped based on his performance or his ability to play or his utility, that's one thing. But when his ability to play has maintained, and in fact his scores have either maintained or increased, and yet his price has dropped, that's where it's painful because I can't get anything back out of it.
But theoretically, whatever you're trying to get out of it, if you do get out of it, whatever you are then going into is cheaper also. Like, isn't it more important to look at the relative price as opposed to the absolute price? Like whatever
with
whatever
what
you
I've got,
sell
yeah,
today.
yeah, with what I've got, yeah. But with if I wanted to buy in more, because I don't have like if I like, who did I want to buy the other day? I wanted to buy someone for like £400 or something, and I was like, Jesus, I would literally have to like either sell like 2 super rares now, or like sell like 15 or 18 rares. And I know like the relativity of the price is there, but the fact that these players have gone down so much and yet they're still performing well. And so for me to just win enough back just to like get 100% return on investment, which isn't always possible on every card, I get that, but obviously some cards have got more than 100%. But and it's not only about the return on investment, as I say, like the genuine connections, the football I've watched, the videos I've made, the streams I've had, like there's been a lot more to it than just the value. But I think people would be fooling themselves if anyone believed that nobody's playing this game to win. You're playing to win one way or the other. You're playing to win, whether
100%.
that's whatever that may be for. You might be playing to win to have the most wins on the platform ever, so that in 500 years from now, when people are looking back at Sorare going, oh, it was Laird had 793 first places, next was like 500. What a guy he was. You'll go down in folklore of like,
No wonder there's a statue of him everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And because we bought into that spike, and I kept doing the thing that I do wrong, not all the time, because it actually has paid dividends a lot, especially one crypto that I did buy. But as it's going up, instead of me being like, time to cash out, let's reset, I'm like, it's going up, let me buy in more, let me buy in more, let me buy in more. And then it starts coming down, you're like, oh shit, I've missed it. And then that's it. Now you sit in this position where I'm in now, where a lot of people are in now, a lot of people that I see in this chat all the time, a lot of people that are in my chat in streams and on Twitter that have nothing to do with me or SD that I see on like the Sorare. I've got like a Sorare feed up, and it's just people being like, I bought this set of players for X amount, I've won 25 rewards with them, and I'm still at like a net loss. And it's just like that's a really bad look for the platform, in my opinion.
I don't agree. And the reason why I don't agree with that is because, well, firstly, I do understand what you're saying, and it is very demoralizing when you see everything going down, right? Because I'm in the same boat. I think
you're in a boat that's going down. That is demoralizing.
Yeah, well, I can swim. Everyone that's been around here for, I would say, like 16 months plus, are probably in the same boat where it just feels like this weight coming down constantly as the value of everything comes down, right? But I don't agree with it being a bad look on the platform if somebody's won 25 rewards with a set of players and they've not profited from that yet, because it's not like there's a deadline on when you can profit from those cards. And I also think that it's not so much faith in the platform, it should be faith in yourself. Like, I have faith in the reason why I bought Super Asani yesterday is because I have faith in myself that over the next X amount of time, even if prices are going down, I can still place highly enough to get an ETH payout in All-Star Rare Plus and get you can get the 10th and get £200 or whatever, plus whatever reward, sell it. That adds to it. I have faith in my own ability in SO5 to continuously get high places and pay that off. So if in a year from now, he's not sort of offset his own cost, we go again for another year, I don't think it's necessarily a bad look. I understand that it is demoralizing, but like, these cards have infinite utility. And even though prices are going down, they're not a zero. You can still win cards that you can sell for money. And if you want to cash out that money, they're not at a zero yet. If they go to zero, then they go to zero, but they're not there yet. So I don't think there's a sort of calendar into where you have to have made profit on the card, otherwise it looks bad.
But you're literally describing like a race to the bottom. You're describing let me buy something, hopefully win enough before it gets to zero, and that's where it's at. And whilst there's a lot of money involved in Sorare, and I'm not even trying to suggest that every single person should be able to come onto the platform and profit, because it will just never happen. Like, no business would ever work if every single person makes money, right? But I think it's the discrepancy. Like, if I'm looking at a player and they're fluctuating, like I say, if there's like an obvious kind of trend as to why prices are going up or down, you can kind of like understand a little bit more. You can be like, okay, yeah, that's fair enough. Like I bought this player for €100. He's now €80 because the season's coming to a close, or because he's out of form, or whatever. But when it's like, I bought this guy for €100 and he's now €3, it's like, how do you manage that? How do you try to explain to a new user that even if you come on and put $20 on or something, let's say you usually do like accumulators on the weekends for like 50 quid or 20 quid or whatever, so you put that on Sorare instead, and then a week later it's literally worthless, even though your bet would have lost and you would have won nothing. You knew full well what the outcome was going in. But on Sorare, it's that promise of, you can win, it can grow, you have these cards for utility for a long time. And it's almost like misleading people to believe that there is a jackpot at some point, and there's not. And that kind of like negative sentiment, outside of everything else that's gone on, positive or negative, so rare, I think that will just turn people off, because I would rather have a gamble. I would rather go and put an accumulator on or go to the casino than hold these cards for weeks, having to do research and understand set piece takers and things like that to have any reasonable hope. So if Sorare want to make the mainstream, they have to get a grip on the price fluctuation not being as wild as it is.
I think one of the interesting things you just mentioned was basically saying Haber's description was a race to zero. And Haber, I'll disagree with something that you said, that the cards have infinite utility. And I'll combine those two, that your cards, let's use the assumption that cards of retired players are worthless, literally zero. You are racing to that number. Like, the infinite utility is really just the finite utility of the player on that card and how long they can be a professional footballer and help you in this game. So there is a time frame, like there is a very finite time frame that you can benefit from a card in the game. And it's that player's career, theoretically, in a covered league, whatever. But so the race isn't to Sorare going to zero. It's each card going to zero. And if you want to pretend that these things become collectibles and that when guys retire, people will still want them, that's fine. I think we could probably agree that 99% of the cards on the platform are worthless once a player retires. If anybody wants a Michael Bradley super rare, I'd happily sell it. So that's really our time frame. And Nep, you kind of have kept going, like when you started on the collection thing, and you were like, you buy a collection and you win enough to get another collection. And everything you kept saying was that the game was so easy that within a year you can make everything back. And whether or not that was the case at the time doesn't matter, but is this artificial deadline of a year what's actually holding you back?
No. I don't think. I don't think a year. Like the time frame is like it's not even a year; it's more of a season. Like within that kind of season, I think you have the ability to make it all back. But it again does like what happens and what happened, especially for me at limited level. Outside of limited's crashing, even let's even pretend that they maintained price compared to when I bought like the Jean-Book collection, and then I bought the Portland Timbers collection, and then I bought the Aurora Reds collection, and then I bought another MLS collection. I can't remember what it was, and I ended up in a position where I was like, I've just got too many Asian collections and too many American collections, and when I look at my All-Star, I'm like, I'm not putting any of these players in here because they're just not the guys. And so I ended up with like no utility on players. And then I'm like, oh, fuck, if I'd have just played Jean-Book guys, that even though they had playing first in the table, they managed to get a 2-0 win. They got decisives everywhere. And I actually would have won a reward. But instead I played the Aurora Reds because they had a home game to bottom of the table. And lo and behold, they rotated and I got 0 points anywhere. It's again that I talked about this last week with you. It's like too much choice is sometimes a real bad thing, and that was my problem with the collections. Is that I ended up having too much choice with who I could put where. I made really poor decisions with where I put them, and so I effectively won nothing. Whereas if I did stick to my original guns of like I've got this one team and this one collection and just played them out, I would have won, in theory, 100% return on investment if the prices had remained the same, which they didn't anyway. But at least then, if I was doing that, I'd be like, okay, it doesn't matter whether it takes 3 months, 6 months, or 18 months. I'm seeing the progression up, and it's like that's where I wish I was now. But in every individual system, like forget All Stars, but I wish I had like a Challenger Europe limited rare and super rare collection, and ideally of the same team, so that when they go off in all tiers for me, right? And I actually looked at Gator Guy's results. I think it was last week or last game week, should I say? And he did really well. It might actually be this week. No, it was last week. In 339, he got 17th in All Star Rare Plus, which is awesome, and 141st in All Star Rare. And I looked at it and I was like, oh, damn. He's literally got Visca in both. He's got Muslera in both. And I was like, I just never do that. I just like, and again, why? And it's like, that's where collections, the kind of like through the rainbow of the colors, could be so valuable again. And then when you have the island weeks where you've got a Turkish team and you're like, oh yeah, I've got a super rare collection, a limited collection. And that's where you get that, when you talked about Edge last week, or a couple of days ago, that's where you get an edge. And I'm happy to wait a very reasonable amount of time for that to come through, because all the time when I look back at Sorare Data's like concept builder, and you're like, if I had this team, how many times would it have won? And even if it only won like 4 times, you're like, okay, well, that's only 4 times in like, 38 game weeks or 40 game weeks. I can wait 1 in 10 weeks to get 1 win, or 1 in 20 weeks to get 1 win, because it was never bought to win every single game week. If you're buying to win every single game week, you might as well just have a bet at that point, because you're never going to win every single game week. And because my strategy, because I feel like I've improved as an SO5 player and as a Sorare player, because I don't think playing SO5 and the strict kind of like fantasy side of it is the only area of playing Sorare, but because I've improved as a Sorare player, it's really painful not being able to apply that, because I'm still like looking backwards on all of the losses that I've taken through not through strategy or not through my own choice, but just through the platform changing and the platform and ETH dying and NFTs dying and the whole, you know, the economical crisis. Like, these things have played a bigger impact. And somebody said it in the chat before, is like, by me not wanting to spend money is like me not having faith in the platform. And I was like, well, goddamn, that kind of makes sense, because even in the couple of years I've been on this platform, we've gone through significant gameplay changes. And I kind of just want to play this game when it's the 95% of the game with minor changes for stability over the long term, rather than doing something or like, you know, the going through the rounds now is people being like, well, maybe they remove threshold. And I'm like, well, then I don't want to keep buying into collections that are there to help me through buying thresholds if threshold's gonna disappear. So why would I buy in now? Now is a terrible time to buy in, because Sorare themselves haven't got a clear path for their own game.
Do you want to go first, Laird, or shall I?
That was a lot of talking. Apologies.
That was a lot of talking.
I'm just going to say one thing, because I'm old and I'll forget about it. So it feels like this was part of some of the not really like advice that I got from my DFS days, but there's a whole like process over results, that if you think you have a good process, then that is more important than the results. Like, there's a lot of luck that goes into a process working out. And what you were saying about having too many choices, and you were like, oh, if I played Urawa when they were home against the last place team, and I should have played John Buck because they ended up winning, but you made the right choice. And going back and being like, man, if I had just made the wrong choice, I would have won. And it's like, that's not, you're putting yourself in a situation there where you had the right process and it just didn't work that 1 week. And we think about that. Like, when it doesn't work, we're just like, man, I messed that up. And it's like, well, something that is completely unforeseen happened. And that's not necessarily because you were wrong about it. And so looking back at those things, I think hurts you more than anything else. Like, hurts in terms of like even progressing from there, of what did I learn from this? Well, I learned I should play the worst players. Like, that's not the lesson. And so
no, absolutely, yeah. Stop
doing that. And I had 8 other things, but I can't remember them. So Ryan, you're up.
Well, I'm young and I forgot everything as well.
You're too young.
That wasn't even because of you, though. I'd forgot by the end of next fucking monologue. I forgot what he was even saying.
Oh, I apologize, man. I didn't even think I was going to be talking about this today. I came in here talking about like collection stuff.
I've done my end.
Yeah. like it's just, it's spurred from nowhere. But like, you are right. Like, the process is more important, because like, say, like, if you look backwards and say, if I had this team over 40 game weeks, it would have won 4 times. That means 36 times the process was correct, but the outcome wasn't. And you prepared for that. The problem that I've had is that when the process fails, I change the process. And that has caused massive, massive issues. Like, this season, the first game of the season, Feyenoord had the easiest game they will ever have. They were like 88% win percentage. And I put 1 in All-Star Rare, 1 in All-Star Rare Plus, 1 in Under 23, 1 in Champion Europe Rare Plus, Challenge Europe Rare Plus, 2 in Challenge Europe Rare. And like 6 of the players hit hundreds. And I'm like, why the fuck did I not have them all in the same goddamn team? That was the plan. Why didn't I do it?
The worst part about that, Nep, is not that you didn't win whatever division you should have won that week by putting them all there. It's that you've let that affect you now for 4 or 5 months, and it now affects every single decision you make.
Yeah,
it's in the back of your head, and that's I think that's also in regards to prices, where they were when you first got in and where they are now. It's in the back of your head, always affecting your decisions on whether you want to buy someone, not buy someone. And I reckon there's been many players you could have bought that would have massively improved your gallery that you haven't, because of that thing in the back of your head telling you not to. And I think like a lot of it is, what I think you need is a complete fresh restart.
100%.
Your gallery is 2 years of changing your mind constantly and bringing in players that now don't make sense. It's of players starting up here price wise and ending down there. And it's just this massive culmination of all your thoughts across 2 years in one place that are now haunting you every time you go to make a decision. And I think all you need is genuinely just to fuck them all off and have a fresh start. Because otherwise, I think we'll have this discussion every week where it's like, you want to do this, but that happened, and then that's impacting your decision, and then that's going to impact your decision later on, and then you know what I mean. Even talking about the Gator guy thing, right? Like, that one, like that was one single week that worked for Gator guy, right? Out of an entire year, but that straight in your head now of you wanting to do the same thing to have that 1 week when you can go and find a game week in a month, 2 months, 3 months time where there's only one league or 3 teams playing and actually do it. But in your head now, it's actually the players Gator guy has got that you kind of want rather than the actual like opportunity that it's sort of availed. I think
no, so it's not the players that I want. It is the process. It's the
you
process of actually
you can so
having.
easily do that.
Yeah, no, I can. But like, I haven't bought super rares of rares that I've got or limiteds of rares that I've got almost ever. I've managed to luck out and won a couple. Like I won a Goriaran the last game week of America's rare, and I'm like, nice. Now I've got a rare and a super rare. Like this is good, but he's maybe not the optimum player for it. But of my actual premium players, like I saw in the Discord earlier that Cecilia wants to get 35 decisives this time around, and I straight away was like,
Me too.
Shit, maybe I should just have a super rare Cecilia as well. And his price is like very reasonable right now. And I'm like, okay, he is 34, but he's not long term 34. And the price his super rare is right now is less than the price I bought his rare for just over a year ago. And I'm like, why wouldn't I have him? And then I'm like, do I want to put in? Then I'm like, no, I don't want to put more in. So I'm like, okay, let me get how am I going to get the funds together to get this Cecilia? And then I'm like, okay, now I either have to sell like 700 rares at like £3 each because they're all fucking worthless, or I have to sell an optimal piece, which I don't want to do. And then I'm like, who am I even playing him with? I haven't got any other Korean rare, the super rares or anything like. So I was like, nah, it doesn't even make sense to like buy him because he actually doesn't fit my gallery. He's not part of a process. He's just me buying a guy I hope to score a lot of points. And so in the end, I just got like clicked off the page, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm not interested."
Yeah, you were only on there in the first place because of your FOMO, anyway.
Yeah, it literally was. Because I'm 35 decisives for Cecilia.
Exactly.
Let's go.
But like, it's a card that realistically, I mean, it's a great card. That card makes sense in anyone's gallery, really, but also kind of doesn't, right? And it's like, and how many cards have you FOMO'd into actually buying over the last 2 years out of just pure FOMO?
Oh, loads.
And nothing exactly.
Yeah.
So you made the right choice by clicking off. I just want to also quickly say, can we stop fucking calling me Newsham Jr., you absolute assholes? Like, stop it. God damn it. Anyway, that's all I had to say about
that. I think there are more risks to Cecilia for your gallery than you think.
Don't buy him.
It's that game week where they're against bottom of the table, and you're like, this is great. And then you look, and just like you said, you have no other K-League cards, and you're like, oh. Yeah. And then that's when you get pissed because you're like, I bought this card. I got rid of all of these other pieces that I had because I wanted to get Cecilia, and now I have him and nobody else. And that's completely viewable ahead of time.
Yeah.
Like you get to that week and you're like, how did this happen? And you're like, it happened because you literally didn't look ahead. So I think that's a lot of people get themselves in that situation. Like, man, this guy crushes. And then, his best matchups don't match up with the best ones of your other players. And so you have Cecilia's 100 super rare, and then everyone else scores 46 and you get nothing. And then you just get pissed off that you bought the Cecilia because you're like, but those things are foreseeable. And so you can, like, closing that page was probably the best thing that you did.
Yeah.
100%. Like, FOMO is the worst. FOMO, and this is from, like, I'm Master FOMO himself. Like, the amount of cards I've bought over the last 2 years out of pure FOMO is ridiculous. I mean, the amount of cards I've bought because Nep's FOMO'd and bought a card, then I've saw Nep buy the card, and then I've got FOMO because I'm like, well, if Nep's, I've got to buy it if Nep's bought it, surely, because like Nep knows what he's doing. So then I'll buy a card, and then we both have this absolute shitter, like that we've both FOMO'd and bought because he's moved to China, and we expect him to do really well. He plays 3 games a season, like, you know what I mean? So
on that note, Romulo's up at like £200. And there's a few of him, and I'm like, oh my days, that is so cheap. Oh my days, that is so cheap. Like, he'll be back. Yeah, NepentheZ then Lairdinho.
Yeah.
Man, we should have sold him when Charlie Woodleg bought him.
Oh
my
God.
favorite part of that is Sorare Josh having bought the card for $300 probably a week before that.
But he sniped it. Somebody mislisted, I think, or like just listed it low. Yeah.
Well, what I was gonna say was the amount of cards I've bought off Josh, where a week before he's bought it for a fraction of what I'm paying him for it, and I'm just like, why every time does he just get these deals and then I'm just giving him my money every time? He's the amount of steak dinners Josh has had on me is crazy.
I was literally looking at a player yesterday and I saw that Sorare Josh had one listed and I just closed that page. I'm like, I've already missed it. I've already missed it. It's too late.
Yeah. My favorite, it's a quick story about that Goriran Super Rare, is that Nep, as you can see, traded for that card. And is it an old season card?
Yeah.
So whatever happened, the transfer wasn't showing up on Sorare data that day. And so I had no idea what you paid to get it. And I was negotiating with someone and I'm like, I'm going to end up paying like 3x what Nep did because I have no idea what he paid for it. And I think I literally waited until it showed up because I don't know why there was a delay, but I remember being like so nervous that I like grossly overpaid. And then I just needed the next transaction to happen to know that I grossly overpaid.
Yeah.
But good thing is I haven't won anything from it either. Somebody mentioned this before. Do you think that collections, where was this, are actually what's making you inefficient?
Yes.
Me personally, or just in general?
You personally.
Nep describing right now why
you
collections make your gallery inefficient.
Yeah. No, my management of collections is why they're inefficient.
So what's the difference?
I personally don't think that a gallery focused on collections will ever be a gallery that's efficient in SO5.
I mean, I think it's Riku. He might be watching us right now.
Riku man?
No, I can't. What's his name? Wiku?
Risu?
Risu? How do you spell that?
Risu?
No, he's got like quite a long name. Like a. Oh yeah, no, it is Risu. You're correct.
Yeah,
you're correct. So he has got. He's actually dropped down on his. He must have sold a whole bunch of stuff.
No, that's just what prices are now.
No, not because his gallery valuation, just because of the volume of cards he's got.
Oh.
But his he's like a lot of good collections. He collects like a lot of like other cards, like jersey mints and things like that, and then tries to sell them at like a massive premium, of which I bought a couple from him because why wouldn't you?
This Ward Prowse is the one of, and went for $5 more than the floor.
That's what I mean. Like, can you see in his gallery how many one-offs he's got on SD? I don't think you can you? Because in fact, just look at all of those cards. They're all specials or one-offs or jersey mints, everything.
Yeah.
And that's a really smart strategy because he ended up getting like, I think it was about $60 for a Dharma Traore Barcelona card. That wasn't even a one-off. There was just 6 of them minted at limited level only. And 4 of them are on inactive accounts. And the other guy wanted like a crazy price. And I didn't buy it in the end. But the person that bought it, I'm like, you've literally just bought like a $2 card for $60 because it fits into a collection. And that's why collections have, when we talk about long-term, that's why collections are not inefficient, because I don't think the most efficient way to play this game is SO5.
Okay, well, that's fair enough then, because I was talking specifically SO5 only. I do, yeah, I mean, from a trading standpoint, but again, it still doesn't make your gallery efficient because you never sell them.
I know.
No, but you're completely ignoring that it's not the collection that is making him profitable. It's one-ofs and jersey mints and special editions. Has nothing to do with the collection.
Mm-hmm.
But look at my LDU collection.
That's what's making him profit.
Right, other people's collections, not his. Like,
yeah, so collections is still the thing that makes it work, though, right?
But he is not building collection.
Yes, it's other people's collection. That is, it's other people being degenerates and wanting the special versions of each card, and him knowing that he can extort more money. Maybe extort's a harsh word to use, but him knowing that
he extorts people.
He can extort. He can extort more money, knowing that these people will pay it because they're so desperate to have the special version of that card in their collection.
So this goes back to like what I wanted to talk about my own stupid collection idea. But fundamentally, I think one of the problems a lot of people have with building collections is how many cards you have to buy that you do not want. Like, you look at cards and you're like, I will never play this card. He could be retired for all you care. And you're like, I'm spending money on this card so that my little collection score can go up so I can get more points in the in the game. If you just bought one-ofs, jersey mints, and special editions of any collection, that surely has to be better than buying a full collection and getting your...
Yes,
No?
I'd agree with that. Yeah, I'd agree.
I'm just that person that bought just one-offs.
Yes, you bought it on the LDU keto, but like that'll pay off, man. They're gonna fucking cut your lawn. They're gonna like fucking do your laundry and shit. When So Rare 17th of Jan with this new collection event, when you get a little button to click yes, and the LDU keto team buses outside your house in a week, then it'll be worth it.
But like I say, like for me, even at SO5 level, because what we saw with the players from like Hearts and Hibs last week and stuff, even at SO5 level, managing your collections is valuable. And you see it with the best gamblers and the best fantasy players and the best Sorare players, is everything is a means to an end. And that's where I mess up, is I get emotionally attached to everything. Instead of, if I buy something for $100 and it's now worth $50, but I need $50 to get something else that I want, I'm like, I just rather not have what I want because I can't let go of this bad decision. And that's why that's where it's been inefficient for me, is because I can't manage my emotions with everything that I've got. But this goes what I said to you right at the start of the show, Laird, is like, from an outsider's perspective, I would say to someone, just sell that card for $50 and buy what you want. Why wouldn't you do that? But from the internal perspective, I'm like, I will just ride this to zero and then complain. That's the way, that's how it's going to be, man. That's just how it's going to be. And hope that, this upcoming weekend, Feyenoord have got another good matchup. And I just hope that my Feyenoord stack wins All-Star Rare Pro and I get a massive payout. And I'm like, yes, like that's covered off a lot of the crap that I've lost on. So I'm gambling on fantasy sports, effectively.
You're playing fantasy sports. That's
Exactly.
fundamentally
You're
what it is.
playing fantasy sports.
Yeah.
Neb, we don't want to be using the word gamble, Neb. Come on.
Makes us feel like athletes.
We don't want to go back there again.
To go back to the whole jersey mint thing. So the reason somebody was like, why do I want to sell my Ren collection? I realized way too late in the process that I was trying to build a collection in the single most expensive way possible, which makes it extremely difficult to then yield enough to pay off for that collection. And so I picked one that isn't being auctioned anymore. So I have to buy everything from the secondary market. So I'll never be first owner. So the only way to get, and they have, I think, 2 rookie cards and no special editions. So the only way to really move up is to get jersey mints and one-ofs. There are a good number of those cards owned by galleries that have not touched the platform in 2 years. And the issue that I was having, I talked about this with Gator Guy recently, that once I became committed to this idea, if one of those cards that I needed, the jersey mint or the one-off, became available, I had to buy it. Like there was no option, because if I didn't get it, then someone else who's building a collection is going to get it, and then it's gone. And I think that's the problem I ended up having, where I have cards that I've spent, compared to the floor, is downright embarrassing. That when you buy a card for $600 and it's worth $78, and I'm like, no, but mine is, and it's like, as soon as you start having to like justify why yours is worth more, nobody cares. And so if I wanted to sell out this collection, the only people who would value these cards more than the floor are other collectors. And if they don't want it, they're just not worth it. Like the cards are worth not nothing, but they're worth, the 10% of what I paid for it. And since I'm not using them, do I just take the loss?
Something interesting that I picked up on is, so you've used like the word embarrassing, and earlier you talked about sort of shame and things like that in regards to how much your cards are worth now compared to before. But who's like, why are you embarrassed? Embarrassed to who? Like who do you think's judging you? Because I've done this exact same thing.
I judge Laird on all of his choices.
I've done this exact same thing, right? Where I've made trades and made buys and stuff like that, and then I've felt shamed or embarrassed because I'm worried that people are judging me and judging what and now I've realized, like, why? Like, it's your money. If you do a trade or you buy a card that loses value, if you're happy with the card, who is judging you to make you feel embarrassed or shamed? You know what I mean? Like, whose opinion do you care about so much that you actually feel that way about buying a virtual NFT? You know?
Laird just knows that he'll get railed by Sean for an hour straight.
But that's it. Like, I honestly think,
to be honest, if there's like one person I literally could not care less about how they think of my collection, like, I don't even think Sean knows I have this Ren collection, because I know how he would think it was so stupid that I don't ever talk to him about it. But Haber, you legitimately just blew my mind with what you said.
This is it, because I've done the exact same thing. And do you know who I used to feel embarrassed, like who I thought was judging me and who I'd feel embarrassed about? Nep, Channy, Sean.
I do, to be fair.
Like, these are the people that I used to hide away from and not speak to for a little while after making a bit of buy on Sorare, out fear that they would mock or patronize or condescend my decision, right? So I would always shy away, or I would not do certain things that I wanted to do out of a fear of that. And I think, like, the whole flipping Doku for Griezmann thing was a big one, because I knew Sean would react in a way as if I fucking care if Sean's angry at a decision I make about my gallery. Why would I give a shit about that? You know?
It's funny you say that, Haber, actually, because I used to not make choices and actively make choices based on what my chat would say.
And how many times did I tell you to stop listening to those idiots? And no offense, because you're not actually idiots, right? But like, when you're in, like, Nep inside his own head has got an idea or a plan. If somebody else is telling him it's not a good idea for whatever reason, they don't know what Nep knows in that scenario. And it's, in my opinion, Sorare is a game where you should always trust your own gut and your own decision making. But we let people influence us for some reason, and I don't get why.
See, the limited Lewandowski though, like,
Remember that
first of all, is like, it's just beautiful to be that top dog. No, it is, and it's worth every penny, right?
Play to be at the top.
Yeah, thank you very much. And the thing is, in another like 5 years or 10 years, assuming that limiteds don't pump again because of something, people will look at that lower graph and they'll be like, "Oh, who's this kind of boy? NepentheZ, that's mad." Will they look at your £35 purchase of Lewandowski or your 100? They won't give a shit about you. They will care about me, right? So I'm all right with that. But also, at the time, it was a good choice. And that's like, going back what you were just saying, Haber, and what you were saying about some other stuff a minute ago, Laird, as well, is like, that is kind of it. As I was listening to you guys talk, my whole mind kept coming back again to, until I know, or at least I feel confident with where this game is going, I couldn't reasonably spend any more money on it.
That's fair. That's fair enough. I
was literally about to say the exact same words were about to come out of my mouth. That's
yeah.
fair.
Yeah.
I don't really have anything else to say other than that.
So yeah, sort your shit out, Sorare.
No, I think like the big issue for me is that they've just, like, it's the announcements of announcements, man, and it gives you this, like, this period now of limbo where you have no clue what's going to happen. So like, I've only bought pretty much Champion Europe players now for the last month or however long it's been. Actually, I think it's only been about 2 weeks since Nico's tweet, but it felt like it was a month. Because I feel like they're the only players that I think are going to stay safe regardless of whatever decision they make, right? In my head, that's what I think. Like, I feel like Champ EU Smashes are the only ones that I feel like will be safe in February when they make this announcement. Whereas I deliberately not bought other players just in case they say, okay, we're going to pump all this money into this, and then people in Challenger start getting scared and selling up, and then on my cards, you know what I mean? So they can't keep doing these announcements for announcements. It's just so detrimental to sentiment, and I can't imagine how many people at the moment are in the same boat as Nep, where they're just like, I just don't want to buy. They've seen, oh, there's a big change coming, but we still don't know what the change is. It's still a month away from the change coming. I'm just not going to buy. and that's going to negatively impact the market for another month.
Those bastards.
Those bloody bastards.
Hopefully people just stop putting lineups in and then we can just clean up over the next month.
Yeah. True.
Nep says, what do you mean by how the game is going? What would you need for you to be comfortable?
I don't need it's not the need of something, it's almost the need of nothing. Like, you know, like they've spoke, like they regularly, and I understand why, because they are still a relatively new like company, and they are in an industry that is new. And I think about, before I answer that question, I'll again like go sideways a little bit, but I think about a lot of like the gaming industry, and I think to myself, the first ever football game that was created doesn't exist now, but it was a pioneer to all of the other football games. And I sit there and I think, is Sorare going to be a company still that is around in 10 years' time in this space, in this Web3 space, or this Web 2.5, whatever we're calling it? Or is it going to be the company that inspired others to be much, much better, because they're now kind of like locked to who they are and what they offer? And if they constantly keep changing that, they're just going to push people away. And then a new company will come along that will do what they're doing, but better, with a clear vision and a clear understanding of how it works. And they'll just absorb all of the customers, and with that, all of the money. So that kind of like makes me think as well about, what do I want from Sorare? I want something that doesn't say, we'll monitor how 240 goes for the next few months and decide then if we want to change it. And it's like, well, that's just not okay, because we need updates on how this monitoring is going. And then if you do decide to change it, that's going to influence what I've got and how it's valued and how I play the game. And, you know, making like random changes. And even if the change is positive, if it disrupts your process, it's devastating to you individually, even though it might be better to the platform. And if you keep devastating people individually, the negative sentiment is far, far louder than the positive sentiment. And it is just detrimental to the site. And so I just think that there needs to be an actual roadmap that is quite explicit and is good for a year at least. Then I'd be like, okay, I can do this in a year.
I agree. I think they tried that slightly with the whole gameplay changes are going to be only January and August. And I messaged Laird about this earlier, because in their announcement that's coming in February, it says that there is going to be gameplay and reward changes. You can't do a gameplay change in February, but he said that it's only going to be January and August, right? So I think they've tried to give you that kind of stability and comfort that between January and August, and August and January, you're safe. But like the only issue with that is how football seasons work as well. You actually have a tiny window in between both of those windows, because of how football seasons run, that you actually don't really get a whole lot of time to try your strategy anyway. So I do agree. I think, to be honest, that like, I think for as long as I've been on Sorare, in general, that communication's been horrific at best and catastrophic at worst. I think that that's something they massively need to work on. But I also think like the feeling I've always had from Sorare is that like they need proper, I guess, like it's always felt like it's still a startup. Isn't this company worth billions now? Like they need this almost proper like corporate like feel to the company. I feel like when I mention Sorare to people, normal people, like they just think it's some like silly startup game. Like it doesn't have that sort of, you know, corporate feel to being a massive company, which I think would make people feel a bit more safe about their investment if they thought it was this huge company that isn't going anywhere, you know?
I think Sorare being valued in the billions and Sorare being worth billions are maybe two different things entirely. It's like me with my Dennis Favreau Super Rare. I was
going to say, I think the Sorare valuation looks a lot like the price charts that we see on.
Yeah, true. That's fair. I think based on their revenues and their fund rate, didn't they raise like 600 million something? Plus their revenues over the last 4 years. I think they're definitely in at least $1 billion valuation. I don't know enough about sort of business structure to.
So they were, when they raised that money, they were valued at 4.6 billion.
Cool. When are we seeing some of that?
What Charlie says in yeah, that'd be nice, wouldn't it? What Charlie, give me 1% of that. What Charlie says there is dangerous to stick to something wholeheartedly. That's why I kind of like reference, like, I'm not asking them to be 100% on everything, but like 95% of like, this is what you're going to expect with some nuanced changes. But the issue that they have, and I know why they have the issue, is that they don't take opinion and feedback. And if they do, they don't let you know that they do, or how it influences the way the game works. And the reason why they don't do that is because it was influenced prices. And if I say to Sorare, hey, this real cool feature would be good, and they say, do you know what, that would be good? And I'm like, oh shit, I've now got a bit of inside information. I can go onto the market and like load up on all the things that I know is going to change. So they're in a really difficult problem, like difficult situation, having a live trading market with that and taking on board people's opinions and then implementing them into the game. But I still would like more than what they offer, because it's not enough. And who's to say they give a shit about what I want? They might be like, we're going down a great path, and we in their opinion it might be going really, really well, and so they might be like, who gives a shit what you want, you know?
I was going to joke that, how do you feel that you keep buying cards and they go down? So obviously they're not listening to any of your
Yeah, well, there you go. Yeah,
I also thought it was an interesting word, Haber, that you used, that you were like, there's only a small period where we feel safe, as if like the rest of the period is some sort of dangerous landscape that we're navigating.
I would associate safety with
I know what you meant. I didn't. Yeah.
But I actually I think safety is definitely a word I'd still use, though. Do you know where I feel safest in this platform is during the summer, when everyone is then buying cards for their gallery for the new season. They're making their strategies and whatnot. It's funny that there's no football being played, and yet people are most active. Sorry, there is football being played. I say that like I don't have a really successful summer on America anyway. I'm talking specifically European, right?
But Fifi's silly.
Shut your fucking mouth. There's no like European football bar, I think.
Norway.
Yeah, there you go. So there's only really Norway being played, but people are making moves and they're planning their galleries and stuff. The market is usually really quite liquid, especially with European cards. That's the time I feel safest on Sorare, because there is demand for the cards, and I think that probably is where what I associate safety with is demand, hype, excitement, engagement. All those things put together is what I'd probably describe as how I feel, quote unquote, safe with Sorare.
That's fair.
I like Sorare Soul's comment. Premier League has what apparently Nicholas said this. Premier League has only 10 partners, including Sorare. If you take out Sorare, the youngest partner is EA, which is a company that is around 40 years old, or only 5 years old. This is like, I realize probably over the last 3 times I've been on this podcast, I've been like 98, 99% negative about things. And I'm going to do it again. But I'm like, is that a manipulation of like stats? Okay, Sorare may be one of only 10 and the youngest by some distance, but how many others have there been that are no longer partners that had like a 3-year deal or a 4-year deal that have been and gone? Like that paints a picture of, look at us, we're one of the elites, even though we're real young, but it doesn't give you all of the information.
It's just PR. That is simply, it's just PR, really. That's all it is.
Yeah.
I think most of what Nicholas says on Twitter about Sorare is just PR most of the time. I usually take anything he says with a grain of salt, because, you know, it's either an announcement, or it's just him sort of hyping up his company, which, I mean, look, he's built something great. Yeah, exactly. He's built something amazing. I'm not taking that. I'm not trying to take that away. I just think I think sometimes when you look to someone like Nicholas for that bit of guidance, I guess, or that bit of like, you know, you look to him as a kid looks to his dad, you know, that's the guy that's going to make sure I'm okay. We kind of look to him sometimes for that, and it's just all the time, it's just PR rather than like sort of anything assertive and anything sort of comforting, I guess, as a Sorare customer. Well, that's how I feel anyway. I just want him to say something that makes me feel comfortable, man. It makes me feel like I'm a valued customer.
That's fair. The rocket ship emojis don't do it, though.
Nicholas is going to tweet tomorrow, we're going to the moon, and that's it.
Yeah.
Everyone's just going to buy.
Please don't.
Oh.
Anything but that. All right. This ended up being very little about collections, but I think that was a conversation we all needed to have. Thanks everyone for coming. Please like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Nep, good to see you. Haber, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, Haber, thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks for having me, guys. I enjoyed some of that.
Yeah, always.
I enjoyed the little bit before you came on.
Yeah, I enjoyed the bit before I came on as well, before the next fucking comments started.
Thanks for coming to Therapy Time Only, and yeah, we'll be back next week.